Hello, it's Martin from Wisely Automotive, and in this video it will be a very quick one because we have got two MG4 trophies in the showroom here, but one of them is the kind of secret undercover facelift or a tech lift, whatever you want to call it, the slightly refreshed car. So even though they look very similar on the surface and the drivetrain is practically identical, there are a couple of differences to keep in mind, and I will point those out right now. Let's start with the red car, which is the slightly earlier example. And if you look closely here up top, you see that we've got a two-tone roof. This used to be standard on the trophy models, but as time went on, MG introduced the extended range battery option. And now if you want the two-tone roof, which does make the car look a little bit more sporty, you need to opt for the biggest battery pack. So this car, being the one with the middle battery, has a body-colored roof. I know it doesn't really show up well because obviously it's a black car, but we do have a grey one outside, and on that one it's very visible that even though it's a trophy, because it has the middle battery and it's the newer generation car, the roof is entirely grey. Moving on to the other aspect, it's the wheels. So firstly, if we look at this earlier car, the wheel design is practically identical across the entire MG4 lineup. You've got 17-inch alloys which are covered up with these aerodynamic covers, just like with many other EVs, like for example Tesla's. The aim is to improve efficiency by making a very light and simple alloy and covering it up with an aerodynamic cover which doesn't have many holes in it. That really does make a difference, especially at motorway speeds. You gain a couple of percentage points of your range. With these newer cars, I suppose to differentiate them a little bit, the alloy size grew to 18 inches and the covers have a completely unique design for the trophy models. And the last exterior change is the much requested rear screen wiper. I know many people begged MG for this. With these modern cars, quite a few of them do not come with the rear wiper, but because of the angle of the roof here, rain does collect on them. It's not like your kind of normal upright hatchback. So especially at motorway speeds, if you want to make sure that you see what's behind you, you now have the wiper. There's no way to retrofit it onto the earlier models, I'm afraid, but at least you see MG listen to your feedback. Visually on the inside, not much has changed, and that's no bad thing because we actually quite like the MG4 interior, but one of the gripes was always the software. MG kept improving the software over the years and pushing out software updates. The car, if you go into the menu, it does support over-the-air software updates in theory, but none of them have been pushed out over the air yet. So you will see in the system there's an upgrade tab, but if you click that, nothing will happen. It will just always say that the software is up to date. That's because the functionality is there, but MG has not quite enabled that yet. But if you go to a dealer, in case you're experiencing any glitches, MG will update the software for free. In fact, this facelift car is slightly behind, so it's on the R40 version of the software, whereas the other one just had its service done while it was with us, and that one moved up to the version R46. One of the big improvements which people complained about and MG listened was the air conditioning interface. So back in the day, if you clicked on the AC settings, the buttons used to be way too tiny, whereas now the touch targets are much bigger, especially for the temperatures, so this is much easier to adjust while driving. The heated seats and the heated steering wheel buttons are also quite prominent now. It's not too big of a deal though, because even with the older software, as I mentioned in one of our previous videos, you can use some of the steering wheel controls to control the HVAC system while driving without taking your eyes off the road. But at least you see MG is definitely listening to user feedback and improving the system. One other thing which has changed and which is exclusive to these newer models is one-pedal driving. So now if you go into the driving section in the settings, you can enable one-pedal driving mode. But not all one-pedal driving is created equal, so let me show you how that works in practice. I jumped into the grey example. In fact, the red one has already sold, but let me show you what they actually drive like. So by default, I'm now in the normal mode where there's no one pedal driving. So when I let go of the accelerator pedal, I can choose how much regen I want, but the car, as you will see, there's nobody behind me, the car will never come to a complete stop. We are creeping at about 3 miles per hour. Pretty normal stuff like you are used to from a normal automatic vehicle. If we go into the vehicle settings in the driving tab on these facelifts, that's where you can enable the one pedal drive. and I can instantly feel that the throttle pedal has been remapped slightly. Now you will see the car comes to a full complete stop and applies the auto hold without me having to touch the brake pedal at all. It's very handy in the city because, for example, now I'm coming up to a roundabout, it does everything on its own. And the reason why I said that not all of these systems are made equal is because some of them can be quite jerky. For example, the Nissan e-pedal system on the Nissan Leaf, it literally felt like hitting a curb, whereas here it's quite nice and smooth. You can very easily modulate how much slowing down effect you want, and even when you come to the complete stop, it comes to a stop very smoothly. You can't feel the transition from the motor doing the slowing down to the very last moment where I am fairly sure the brakes do engage, because that's part of the auto hold system. So even if I kind of need to inch forward, for example, I can do that millimeter by millimeter without making my passenger sick. And I want to go. No hesitation from the drivetrain. This is really well done, super smooth, on par with some of the best electric cars on the market, like our favorite BMW i3 or the Tesla Model 3s, for example. What I will also do for demonstration purposes is go back into our quad here. Even though we stopped on the speed bump, you could probably see that maybe the car rocked a tiny bit back, but the brakes applied very quickly and there is no drama. Now we are still in drive. Unlike some other cars though, you cannot just flick the gear selector into reverse without having the foot on the brake. That will not do anything. So you need to have your foot on the brake and then the reverse. I suppose it's a safety feature that with these MGs the gear selector is quite centrally located, so you don't want your passenger doing that for you accidentally. And you will notice that the moment I let go of the brake pedal, the car is inching back on its own. So even though you've got the one pedal driving setting which affects how the car creeps forward, in reverse the creep is always engaged and there is no way to disable that. A couple of very important things to point out here. I got out of the car, locked it, let's unlock it again and jump in, because you will see that the MG4 loves to reset the one pedal driving setting. So if I go into vehicle settings, you see one pedal driving is off now. So if I put the car into drive, it will start inching forward on its own. Also super important to mention is that if you enable the one pedal driving but you don't have your seatbelt on, like for example is the case for me now, because if you for example just go out to open the gate or something like that, if I release the brake pedal now, you will see we are still moving forward and the auto hold never engages. So please just keep that in mind, because we wouldn't want you damaging your bumper by crashing into some obstacle. And that's about it. I hope we covered all the things you wanted to learn about this refresh. I'm sure we forgot some little things, so make sure to leave those in the comments if there's anything you think others should know as well. If you are in the market for one, feel free to get in touch with us. We are an independent dealer, but we now started stocking loads of these MG4s because they are a really good deal on the used market. And as you see with the older ones, if you don't want to splurge for the big battery and if you are really particular, for example, about the looks, there are some benefits and the ride will be a little bit softer because of the smaller wheels. We have got variety in our lineup, so we can always get in touch and we know exactly what we are selling, so we will be able to answer your questions about our stock. I think that's about it. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about the EVs, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more about the MG4 specifically, as I said in the beginning of the video, make sure to check out our MG4 review. See you in the next one.